Testing, testing. Hi guys, it's Rose and welcome to an impromptu video. I was not planning on making this video. I was actually planning on talking about this in my mukbang video, but I decided that this is too serious of a topic and too important for me to be like stuffing my face while I am talking about it. And I also want to get this out to as many people as possible because I have a lot to say, and I think I'm gonna say things that other people are not saying because that's just who I am, okay? I'm gonna be speaking the truth, okay? I'm probably going to also discuss this in our upcoming podcast episode. If you guys don't know, I have a podcast with my friend Daniel where we talk about trending topics, issues, the world, society, all kinds of things, not just related to veganism. So if you guys wanna check that out, I'll link that down below because we'll probably be discussing it next week, but I had to get this out. Yeah, sit down. Let's have a chat. I think some of my opinions will be very popular and accepted. Some of them probably not so much. So let's get started. So if you don't spend as much time on the internet as I do, then maybe you haven't heard of the story, but it's been blowing up all over YouTube, and it is regarding the YouTube vlogging family. They are Nikki and Dan Phillippi. Not sure if I'm saying their name right. They are longtime YouTubers. They've been on YouTube for a long time. I remember seeing Nikki's videos like probably 10 years ago. I don't know. Anyways, they have a toddler and they had 2 dogs. Recently, they made a video and an announcement on Instagram and on YouTube that they've decided to euthanize one of their dogs. And the dog, I can't remember the name of the breed. I'll put a picture here so you guys can see. And apparently this dog has been having aggression issues for some time. It seems that the aggression issues have been happening for years to the point where they couldn't even let the dog out. It seems that the dog had to be an indoor dog. I mean, I have a lot of opinions on this, okay? And they decided to euthanize the dog. So basically kill him because the dog has been showing aggression, especially toward their new toddler. I have a lot to say and a lot of feelings about this, especially as someone that loves dogs, and I'm sure you can imagine my opinions on this topic. But first, I do want to address something that I am also bothered by. This whole story makes me upset in so many ways because it's not just this specific story, but what it represents and what it says about society. So firstly, before I really get into my feelings about this specific situation, I just really need to get out my opinions on the bigger issue at hand. Okay, I think it's important because people are not going to be talking about this as much as they're going to be talking about this specific situation. I want people, like the general public, to really look at the situation and how they feel, the sadness they feel, the frustration, the anger, and recognize that this feeling that you feel right now toward this one dog is how vegans and animal rights activists feel every day when we think about what happens to billions of animals and how they are killed. Not just killed, but abused their whole lives and then killed. And how nobody else cares. 99% of the population does not care about that fact. I mean, every single day we know that helpless animals are being killed every second of every day. Every second of every day. By the billions. By the billions. We vegans are the only ones that seem to really care about this topic. And that adds on top of the frustration and anger and sadness that we already feel. The only difference in this situation is that we're talking about a dog. An animal that the general population has agreed we can love and that we're not allowed to abuse. Other animals, cows, chickens, pigs, we can abuse them, but not dogs. I find it just so tragic and frustrating when vegans speak out against very lucrative industries that profit off of abusing animals, essentially abusing and killing animals. And vegans are deemed as preachy, they're deemed as militant, aggressive, judgmental. Yet the moment something like this happens to a dog, all of a sudden people are 10 times more preachy and judgmental and aggressive toward the people that are doing this. I was going through their comment section just yesterday. I was just screenshotting the different comments and what people were saying because it baffles my mind that you're allowed to say such things when you're talking about something that, you know, the majority of the population already agrees with. You're allowed to call these people murderers. Murderers. We've been told as vegans to never use those terms. Never say murder, never say murderers when we're talking about what's happening to animals because the word murder is reserved for human beings. The word murder is for humans, not for animals. As if that technicality makes a big difference, but apparently it does. You're not supposed to use the word murder to describe what happens to animals. Last time I checked, dogs are not humans. How quick does that switch flip? Like, the double standard is just so real. I'm just gonna read you some of the comments that I screenshot yesterday. You and your wife are sick. I cannot believe you murdered your dog. He didn't die, you murdered him. No sympathy. I think the words you needed to say were, we murdered our dog. You didn't even try. You should be disgusted with yourself. He didn't pass. He was murdered. Shame on you both for murdering your dog. This is not a good look, and I'm absolutely disgusted. Do I disagree with those comments? No. I'm not disagreeing with anything. I personally don't use the word murder when I describe what happens to animals because I've been trained not to by not just non-vegans but also vegans. We've been told that using the word murder is wrong because we're not describing what's happening to humans, but also it's not a good communication tool, which I do agree, okay? Because as vegans, we're a very small fringe group, okay? And in order to communicate properly, I do agree that we don't want to be super, aggressive, and that it's better to communicate in a not so angry way. So I agree with that. So I don't use the word murder or murderers, and I'm not telling people that I want to use those words now, but I just want to point out the hypocrisy of people that say that vegans are aggressive, vegans are militant, vegans are preachy, vegans won't mind their own business. I mean, is this not, correct me if I'm wrong, but is this not our business? How is it all of a sudden our business what this family is doing? Do you see the contradiction? Because it is our business. This dog had his own life. He didn't deserve to die. He's an individual with a life. That's why it's our business, to protect other beings. Okay, regardless of whether or not they're in my family, if your actions have a negative consequence toward another living sentient being, then it's everyone's business. It's no longer just your lifestyle, okay? It seems so clear when we're talking about this with regards to a dog, but as soon as we talk about it in the context of animal agriculture and animal exploitation in lucrative industries that everyone participates in, all of a sudden, it's all mind your own business and, oh, just respect my lifestyle. So all of a sudden, when a dog is in question, it's okay to write all kinds of threatening, harassing messages to these people. All of a sudden, it's okay. It's okay not to mind your own business all of a sudden because they're participating in a form of animal abuse that you disagree on because you're not participating in it. Do you see? That's the difference. People don't like to be told that they're the ones participating in something bad, okay? Even though I don't like to call people bad people, I think we're a product of the society that we grow up in. We're a product of our upbringing. I'm not going to say that somebody is evil for eating meat or participating in these industries, but I would like you to do a little bit of introspection. I would like you to at least acknowledge that these industries are horrible and that they do abuse and kill animals by the billions. But it frustrates me when people are just in so much denial that everything that they're doing is perfect, and it's those people that are the problem. So it turns out that vegans aren't the only preachy ones. It's just that vegans and animal rights activists are standing up against 99% of the population and something that 99% of the population participates in, which makes this job a million times more difficult. Nobody wants to be called out for what they do, but it's easy to harass, target, and verbally abuse a couple of people on the internet for what they did because what they did goes against the social contract and the social norm of what's deemed acceptable. But if you're criticizing the abuse of animals happening on a mass, global scale, then you're mean and judgmental. I really try to be not super angry vegan, even though I'm coming across a little bit angry right now. But this is the thing. It's like we're trained, vegans, we're constantly told by non-vegans and vegans that we have to be really nice and cordial and kind. We don't want to be one of those vegans, we don't want to be the preachy vegan. We're basically told to sit down and shut the fuck up. That's what we're told because nobody wants to hear what we say. Because what we say goes against 99% of the population, what they're doing. And that requires those people to change. It's easy to point out an abuse that's happening because when you're not participating in it, but when you are participating in those things, it's hard to, look at yourself and think, oh, do I need to make a change? Because I'm tying this whole topic to veganism, I know that I'm gonna get more criticism than if I were to just talk about the issue with the Philippis and this particular dog. If I were to just condemn this family and this behavior, I would get a lot more praise. I just know this because I'm saying things that people already want to hear, which I will talk about later. Like if I were solely talking about this specific topic of the Philippis and this dog, then I would get nothing but praise. I know that. I've seen other videos talking about it from animal lovers, apparently. which I'm sure are not vegan, just putting that out there. I like those videos. I agree with those videos. And I don't think these people are bad people at all. I'm hoping that they can maybe see the light a little bit, just a little bit, because it always starts with, you know, just recognizing your own hypocrisy. Like that's kind of how I started being like, okay, I'm being a hypocrite because I'm criticizing all these other people for whatever it is that they're doing. And I'm thinking that I'm, you know, a good person, yet I'm still also participating in so many things that go completely against what I say I value myself. Another thing that I found so tragically hypocritical is when vegans talk about how, you know, killing is wrong, right? Like we're like killing animals when they don't want to die is wrong, which sounds like the most obvious statement in the world. But when we say that, we get so much pushback because again, people want to defend the indefensible. As soon as we say something like that, most people will say something like, well, you know, as long as they grew up in a healthy environment, as long as they were raised humanely, as long as when they died, it was peaceful, and as long as they were treated nicely, then I'm okay with it. As in, I'm okay with prematurely killing an animal for my benefit, as long as they were treated nicely. I mean, putting aside the fact that around 90-something% of animal products consumed come from factory farming. So basically all these people that claim that they don't believe in factory farms still contribute financially to factory farmed products. Putting aside that fact, coming back to this dog situation, I mean, wasn't the dog treated humanely throughout his life? Didn't the dog have a good life? And didn't he die in possibly the most peaceful way to die? Or I guess to be killed. Euthanasia is possibly the most peaceful way to be killed prematurely. So by your logic, isn't this okay? This is always the argument. It's always the argument toward, you know, vegans and animal rights activists. Oh, as long as they're not in pain, as long as they live a good life, as long as they're not, you know, living in a small cage, even though 90-something% of animals in these industries do live in those small cages and do suffer before they die. But by that logic, this should not be any sort of issue. This should be no problem, right? The dog had a good life. That's all you asked for when it comes to other animals. When it comes to killing a cow, you have no problem with slitting a cow's throat as long as the cow had a couple years of a good life. Even though he didn't want to die, you have no problem with that. But this dog died of euthanasia after 10 years and the world fucking collapses. Why? Because we all know inherently that that is wrong. You're just in denial. You're in denial when we're talking about the animal agriculture industries that you fund. Do you see how that logic makes no sense when you flip the species? When you just change the species, it doesn't make sense. When you're talking about a cow versus a dog, it makes no sense. And that's called speciesism. Look it up. Now I know what people are gonna say. Oh my God. Well, you know, cows, those are for meat. It's for meat. Who decided that? We decided that cows are for meat and dogs are for loving. It's arbitrary. It's not some sort of, you know, written in nature situation. These animals all feel pain the same. They all suffer. They all feel pain. They all don't want to die. And I know that it's more complicated with veganism. It's a huge industry. We're systemically kind of wired to consume these foods. And I'm not even trying to get you guys all to go vegan. This isn't even like a go vegan message. It's more of a recognize your own hypocrisy message. Look inward message. Do a little self-reflection before pointing your fingers at other people message. That is the message that I have. I'm not telling everyone to go vegan. I'm telling you to understand why vegans are angry. When you're sitting there, you know, judging another family for doing this, and you're criticizing vegans for judging the world for being like this and judging an industry that abuses animals every single second of every single day, then it's time to do a little bit of introspection. It's time. Now, obviously, I'm not saying it is okay that they did this. I am not defending them. Okay, I hope that that is clear. And I will, of course, share my feelings on this specific situation in a second, but I just ask you, in the words of Michael Jackson, start with the man in the mirror. Start with the man in the mirror. Look at yourself. Look at what you're doing. Look at how much you judge vegans versus how much you judge this couple for doing what they did, and see that it doesn't make sense. Look at yourself and think, okay, what am I participating in? What am I doing? How can I improve? Am I funding industries that I know I'm against? And I know it's difficult to go vegan, and I know this is a different situation. I know that this is so ingrained in society to consume animal products. I consumed animal products for 20-something years. I'm not sat here saying go vegan, go vegan. That's not what I'm doing. I'm asking you to look inward. And I know that going vegan can be challenging. I recognize that as well. You know, we live, again, in a society where 99% of people are not vegan, and it is a little more of a challenge. So I get that. I guess I'm just asking you to lift the judgment on, you know, how vegans behave and how vegans are, and recognize and understand the vegan message at least, you know? It doesn't hurt you to accept that, you know, it makes sense to not abuse animals, right? I mean, if you're buying a burger, going to SeaWorld, buying leather, you might not be directly killing an animal or harming an animal, but you are funding industries that do exactly that by the millions and by the billions. Just ask yourself, like, would those industries exist if we weren't funding those industries? And the answer is no. Industries only exist when there are customers, okay? It's called supply and demand. And again, I know it's a very complicated issue. We live in a very capitalist world. It's very difficult to change these industries. At the same time, you know, you are a consumer. As long as there are consumers, there will be a supply. All right, so that was my main message that I wanted to get across before jumping into how I feel about this whole situation. Obviously, it's very upsetting to me that as a crazy dog lady, dogs are definitely my favorite animal, and like, we for sure do not deserve dogs. Like, we do not deserve dogs. It upsets me so much because even in a society where dogs are supposedly, you know, loved, right? Like, most people love dogs. Even in that society, dogs are still mistreated in different ways, of course, than factory farmed animals, but they are still mistreated. For example, the fact that we feel that it's completely okay for us to just take their life, you know, because we didn't properly train them. We as humans decided that we want to live with dogs. We decided that we want dogs to be in our homes and be our companion animals, be with us day and night and love us and all of that. Yet we don't take the responsibility of actually training them to live with us. And then we blame them. Like, this couple blamed the dog essentially for being too violent and aggressive when they did not do. Again, I don't know the full details, but I watched their video twice, okay? I cringed through their video twice. So I watched the video, okay? I think the first time I was just listening to it, and then I watched it again. It was cringy. That's a weird way to describe a grieving sort of video, because normally when I watch videos of somebody that's been through grief, I tear up or I cry, like I full on cry. Because watching somebody else cry usually makes me cry, especially when it comes to something like a dog, right? But for some reason, maybe it's because of the circumstance of this video, but watching the video just made me cringe. Like, it felt disingenuous. And again, I'm just judging by watching the video. I could be wrong, and I know that everyone has a different process of grieving. So it could be something like that. You know, people grieve differently, and that is something to note for sure. But when I was watching it, especially Nikki, like her husband, I think, was a lot more upset. At least that's how I felt. Nikki just seemed, it was almost just detached. It wasn't, there was no emotion really. And it was almost like she was trying to fake the emotion. And I don't know, it just seemed very strange to me. I've never really watched a video where, you know, somebody was grieving and I couldn't feel any emotion other than cringe. I don't know, it was very strange. The way that she was talking about the dog as well, it was very much like, oh, he was our dog, but he was mostly my husband's dog, kind of, right? Like, and I'm like, you guys have been married for like a very long time. Like, at that point, he's the family dog. Like, he's part of the family. Like, that's how it is. So to me, that was also a little bit like, ooh, red flag, red flag, red flag. One of the things that really stuck out to me is the fact that they never mentioned training the dog. Like, to me, that was the biggest thing, because I know dogs can be aggressive. But the thing is, again, we decided we want to live with dogs. We decided we're going to bring in dogs into our homes. We have the responsibility of training the dog. Okay? It is not the dog's responsibility to learn to live with us. It is our responsibility to learn to live with them and to teach them to learn to live with us. So for them to, again, maybe they were just, you know, they just forgot to mention the training. But to me, it's like, you're going to film a video like this that you know is going to be a very difficult video for many people. And you're not going to mention that you tried and tried and tried and you trained and trained and trained. It just seems like he wasn't trained. That's my guess, which is disturbing. to say the least. So basically, I guess what happened was when he was younger, he was attacked by another dog, and that caused some issues, which, I mean, even if it happened to a human, it would cause issues. At that moment, I would assume that you would take your dog into some sort of rehabilitation training, so on and so forth, after he's shown some aggression. It seems that he was showing aggression over the years, time and time again, because they were saying, they thought about putting him down before, like all of this stuff. And I'm like, never did you mention training. Like, you're not mentioning that you trained him or put him through anything. Like, they make a lot of money as YouTubers, I'm sure. I mean, Nikki has been on YouTube for a long time. I know that. So it just shocks me. That would be the first thing I would do. The thought of euthanization would not even cross my mind. I mean, maybe they left out the training aspect, but I think that's a pretty important detail to leave in, considering you just killed your dog. You might want to mention that you tried and tried and tried to train the dog. And then, of course, the other thing that people are saying, which I agree with, is that they could have rehomed him. There's some speculation with this. People are saying that you can't rehome dogs that are aggressive. But again, there are aggressive dogs that get rehabilitated. There are trainers that can rehabilitate dogs, and they do a very good job at rehabilitating very aggressive dogs. They might be expensive, but hey, this is part of having a dog. You decided to get this dog, and you decided to take this dog in as part of your family. You are obviously living a life of privilege, and for some reason, you're not going to invest in a trainer for your dog. I mean, it's just, as humans, we're so entitled. We feel like we are entitled. We're like playing God, okay? We're entitled to breed animals whenever we want, whenever it's convenient for us, and then we can just kill animals whenever it's inconvenient for us. In some ways, we value human life so much that it's almost detrimental to us as well, because we actually don't allow euthanasia, or what do they call it, assisted suicide, in certain countries, in many countries actually, that people have to actually travel to certain countries to get euthanasia for themselves. So if I get really sick with a terminal illness and I am suffering and I just want to end my life and I want to go peacefully with dignity, I want to die with dignity, I can't do it. It's illegal for me to decide that for myself. Yet we can decide whenever that we can kill a dog, that we can just euthanize a dog. I actually do think when it comes to, dogs in pain, dogs and cats in pain when they are, at the end of their rope, what we do to them is actually more humane than what we do to humans. This is what I mean. It's like we value human life almost in a way that's irrational, to the point where we force people to live when they don't want to live. Yet we give that kind of dignity and we give that kind of respect toward dogs and cats. We euthanize those animals when they're, suffering and when they're at the end, and we allow them to go peacefully. And for humans, we don't allow that in many countries. I don't know about Canada or US. I'm pretty sure Canada and US euthanasia is illegal, but I could be wrong. But yeah, we don't allow that for humans, but we allow that for animals because we think human life is so important that it's illegal to take your own life, even when we are going through so much suffering. So obviously I'm not against euthanasia in a situation where somebody decides this is time for me to go with dignity. But anyways, that's just another topic. I believe, again, with the limited information that we have from the video, I believe that they could have and they should have trained this dog. To me, there were so many red flags in that video. And of course, again, it's just one video and they could be missing information. Maybe they are grieving and they forgot to mention something, but just some of the things that they said, I was just like, oh my God, there's so many red flags here. Number one, the fact that the dog was showing aggression for years. And again, they never mentioned training, never mentioned getting a professional trainer, getting somebody to come in and, look after the dog or whatever, and train them on how to take care of this dog. And instead, they just kept mentioning that they were thinking about putting him down for years. I'm like, what? So this problem has been festering for years and you did nothing about it. And then you decided to have a baby. You decided to have a baby when your dog is not properly trained and he's showing aggression. You decided to have a baby. I mean, I don't know about you, but before I bring in a baby into a home with a dog showing aggression, I would want to train that dog first to make sure that the dog is no longer showing aggression for both the health and safety of my dog, but also the health and safety of my baby. I mean, it's shocking. The neglect, just not thinking through, I don't know. Another thing that they mentioned is that the dog could not go outside. To me, this was shocking because Dogs need to run outside. Most dogs need to run outside. Most dogs need to go for long walks, need to be able to run around the dog park. They need to be able to do those things that dogs do. Once again, it is not their responsibility to learn to live inside a home. It is our responsibility to make sure that they are happy and are able to do the things that dogs need to do. Even though they're living in a human world, they need to still be able to do these things that dogs naturally do. They need to go out and run around and get that energy out, okay? Because I can't imagine having my dog in the home all the time and just in the home. Like, she would literally go crazy. Like, I feel like any dog would go crazy in that circumstance if you don't let them out, especially when they have aggression issues. It's like already he has aggression and then you're making him stay inside because of that aggression instead of addressing the real problem. And then that aggression would just, I believe it would double, quadruple, like, I don't know, because he's not letting any of that energy out and he's not allowed to do the things that dogs need to do. It just feels like it would be a prison. A dog being stuck at home would be a prison. And some people commented that they stopped walking their dog. I don't know how much truth there is to that, but like, that's insane to me. Not walking your dog is insane to me. Especially a dog like that. Like, that dog needs walks and needs to be running around outside and doing all those things. The other thing that they talked about was that they couldn't rehome the dog because the reason they gave was a very not normal. They said that, oh, because he's been with us for, 10 years. He's been with us his whole life, so we can't rehome him. I'm like, oh yeah. So one of the things that the husband said was, oh my God, he said, nobody knows how to take care of Bowser more than me. Bowser's the dog. It seems like a lot more people would know how to take care of Bowser more than you. I get it. He's been with you his whole life, and I'm sure he's very much attached. Oh God, I can't believe it. To say that nobody knows how to take care of your dog more than you when your dog obviously has these aggression issues that are not taken care of by you, it's not the dog's fault. Because you even said the dog got attacked by another dog, which means there's trauma there. When humans or other animals go through trauma, they're gonna react in ways that are not healthy. So how can you say that nobody knows how to take care of your dog more than you when you didn't know how to take care of your dog? And then they mentioned that, if they go to another home, then the liability would still be on them. I mean, I don't know the logistics behind this. We euthanize dogs a lot more often than we should. I'm gonna tell this story that happened recently, actually. A friend of mine was fostering a dog from a pretty well-known local animal shelter. And I was really shocked and really heartbroken when I heard this, and I felt helpless, and I couldn't believe it, to be honest, because it's a really well-known animal shelter. And, for the most part, I try to really respect animal shelters. And for the most part, I try to give animal shelters the benefit of a doubt. And I think that they're doing their best and, they're trying. But anyways, my friend adopted this dog, and I guess the dog was only like 1 year old, okay? Young dog. She was showing signs of aggression, lunging, barking at other dogs and also at children, some growling, like stuff like that, right? Signs of potential aggression. Signs of aggression. For me, the obvious answer is train the dog. To me, that's the most just obvious answer. I'm like, the dog's obviously been through trauma, okay? And apparently the animal shelter wanted to put her down, like wanted to euthanize the dog. The dog was 1 year old, was just coming out of abandonment. I don't know where they found the dog. I don't know the details, but obviously this dog had been through some sort of trauma. She was only 1 year old, wasn't properly trained, obviously. And my friend tried to fight. I was going back and forth, trying to figure out, I was like, there has to be a way. Like, there has to be, another home they could go to. There are dog trainers, that deal with aggression. And they made it seem like it was pretty much impossible to find a dog trainer that can deal with aggression. And I'm like, what? They put this aggressive dog in foster care and then expected that she would be okay? I don't know. To me, that seems crazy. I was baffled. I was really shocked that the initial thing that they said was, okay, we're gonna euthanize her. And I'm sure there's, a lot of, bureaucracy and, things that go on behind the scenes that I don't know about. Okay. I'm not pretending to know everything. So if any dog experts want to chime in, that'd be fantastic. But they basically made it seem like, again, we were going back and forth. She was going back and forth with the agency and she was saying, listen, we'll adopt her, we'll get a professional trainer in, we'll get her help. She was already doing some training at home to get, the dog to behave better. And she was already showing signs of, improvement. So she was saying that to the adoption agency and they said the dog isn't cleared for adoption because of the aggression issues. And then they said that they don't have any trainers that know how to deal with this sort of aggression. And I'm like, you don't have trainers You can't find a trainer? And my friend had offered to, you know, pay for all the training and all that stuff, and they still said like no, and they just gave like this whole thing about how it's basically just impossible to train and rehabilitate this 1-year-old dog that's been through trauma, and they're just gonna euthanize her. It's that easy, hey? It's that easy. It's just, and that's from an animal shelter. Like it's so upsetting. So I do think that it happens a lot more than we know. To me, it's frustrating that that's like such a go-to. Like, oh, we just gotta euthanize. We don't want to deal with it. We don't want to deal with the potential that this dog could harm. So we'll just kill the dog. Whew, this video is like a million years long. Anyways, those were my thoughts on this whole situation. Let me know what you think in the comments. Again, I'm probably gonna talk about this more. I'm probably gonna like rant about it in my podcast. If you wanna add anything that I forgot to mention, or if you disagree with me, or if you agree with me, like let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on this situation. And if you are a dog expert, I would love to hear from you. If you know anything about aggression and dogs and training the dogs and rehabilitating dogs, I would love to hear about that as well. If you have any stories on how you rehabilitated your dog, maybe if you had a dog with some aggression issues, let me know. I want to hear all about it. I think it's important to, you know, have these discussions. And I know that in the beginning I went on a huge rant about society and hypocrisies, but I do like that people are talking about these things, because then we can talk about, you know, animals in general and how we can better treat animals. Even if people are hypocrites, it's still better that people are thinking about this stuff, thinking about something outside of themselves, thinking about, you know, helpless beings and animals that are being mistreated. I think it's always a good thing. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, you guys. Regular videos coming soon. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.